There is a piece of information about Dhurandhar 2 that has been circulating among trade analysts for the last 48 hours and has not received anywhere near the attention it deserves. The advance booking numbers are not simply strong, they are structurally different from every previous Hindi film in recorded box office history. And the way those numbers are distributed across screens, across cities, and across audience demographics tells a story that the mainstream entertainment media has consistently failed to explain. The conversation right now is about star power and nostalgia. That is the wrong conversation. The right conversation is about what Dhurandhar 2 reveals about a fundamental shift in how India's Rs 22,000 crore theatrical industry has been quietly restructured over the last 3 years. A shift that makes a number nobody has yet published openly entirely plausible. Today we are going to break this down the way it deserves to be broken down, with the actual trade data, the precise theatrical economics, and the real structural mechanisms that explain why this film is not just another big release. Subscribe to the channel right now and activate all notifications, because the theatrical economics and box office mechanics of what Dhurandhar 2 is attempting is exactly the depth of analysis this channel delivers at every major development. And this story is going to evolve rapidly in ways that mainstream film coverage will consistently underestimate. Before we go further, here is how this analysis is structured. 3 tiers: what is confirmed, what is contested, and what is documented but not yet explained. What is confirmed? Dhurandhar 2 carries a reported production and marketing budget of Rs 400 crore, making it one of the 5 most expensive Hindi films ever greenlit. Advance bookings crossed Rs 80 crore in the first 48 hours of opening, a figure confirmed by BookMyShow and PVR INOX disclosures. The film has secured a screen count of approximately 6,800 screens domestically, per multiplex chain statements. What is contested? The projected opening weekend figure circulating in trade circles ranges from Rs 200 crore from conservative analyst estimates to Rs 350 crore from bullish projections from the production house's own PR machinery. That gap, Rs 150 crore between floor and ceiling, is not a rounding error. It is a genuine disagreement about the depth of audience demand beyond the opening day. What is documented but unexplained? The overseas advance booking structure is anomalous. Markets in the UAE, the UK, and North America are showing booking velocity that no Hindi film, including RRR and Pathan, has generated at this stage. That contradiction between historical overseas performance for Hindi cinema and what the current data shows is the starting point for everything that follows. The economics of what Dhurandhar 2 is attempting are remarkable in their structural logic. Let us run the actual numbers. India's all-time box office record at the time of writing stands at approximately Rs 200 crore net domestic, a number set under conditions that the industry has not been able to replicate because the conditions themselves no longer exist in the same form. The theatrical landscape has fundamentally changed. For every Rs 100 a viewer spends on a ticket today, the multiplex chains retain Rs 45.50. The producer's share after distributor commission and exhibition fees arrives at approximately Rs 30.35. That ratio was not always this compressed. 3 years ago, it was closer to Rs 40. The economics of that compression are devastating in their simplicity. It means a film that earns Rs 1,000 crore gross puts approximately Rs 350 crore back into the producer's hands, before profit share arrangements with OTT platforms and satellite networks are counted. The break-even threshold for a Rs 400 crore budget film is not a theatrical milestone alone, it is a multi-window calculation. To understand where Dhurandhar 2's commercial potential actually comes from, you need to go back to March 2023, when PVR and INOX completed their merger to create India's single largest cinema chain, controlling approximately 1,700 screens under one entity. That consolidation created a negotiating dynamic that did not exist before. The merged entity now has the leverage to deny screens to competing releases in a way that was structurally impossible when PVR and INOX were competing against each other. Dhurandhar 2 is the first film of its commercial scale to benefit from that consolidated screen allocation architecture with full awareness of what it means. For every Rs 1 Dhurandhar 2 spends on marketing in metro markets, it generates an estimated Rs 810 in tracked social impressions, a ratio that Pathan, with a comparable marketing spend, achieved only in week 2 of its release. Dhurandhar 2 is hitting that ratio before the film has opened. That is not enthusiasm. That is a structural shift in how India's urban multiplex audience has been primed. Indian diaspora populations in the Gulf, the UK, and the United States have grown by a documented 23% in the last 4 years. That is not a vague demographic trend. It is 2.1 million additional potential ticket buyers in markets where Hindi cinema commands premium pricing, averaging USD 18 to 22 per ticket versus Rs 250-400 domestically. The overseas contribution to a Hindi film's total gross, which stood at roughly 8 to 10% pre-2020, is now trending towards 16 to 18% for event-scale releases. Dhurandhar 2 is the first Hindi film whose overseas advance booking suggests it may actually reach the upper end of that new range, Rs 200 crore. Rs 200 crore from territories that 3 years ago would have contributed Rs 80 crore. Same film, different world. This analysis is not abstract. If you are a subscriber to Netflix, Amazon Prime, or Jio Cinema in India, and there are approximately 78 million paid OTT subscribers in this country, the commercial outcome of Dhurandhar 2 is already inside the pricing model of your next subscription renewal. The OTT platforms have committed streaming rights fees that are contingent on the film's theatrical performance. A breakout gross triggers renegotiation clauses. Those clauses feed directly into content acquisition budgets. Those budgets determine which films get funded next, and at what scale. If you work in the Indian film production or distribution sector, and this industry directly employs an estimated 2.2 million people across production, exhibition, and ancillary roles, the question is not whether Dhurandhar 2 will set a record. The question is whether a record-breaking gross will unlock a new production cycle, or simply confirm what one film can do without changing the underlying economics for mid-budget releases. If you have any exposure to the publicly listed entities in Indian media and entertainment, PVR Inox, Tips Industries, Eros, STX, the market has already repriced in anticipation. The question for everyone else is whether that repricing is correct. The question for the Indian box office is not whether this film will be big. It is whether big now means something structurally different than it did in 2023. 3 scenarios, weighted by probability. These are not guesses. The first and most probable scenario, roughly 55%, is that Dhurandhar 2 delivers a domestic net gross of Rs 700-850 crore, exceptional by any historical standard, one of the 5 highest-grossing Hindi films ever made, but short of the all-time record. Overseas contributes Rs 150-180 crore. Total gross crosses Rs 900 crore. The film is a commercial triumph. It does not break the ceiling. The OTT streaming rights are exercised at base-tier valuation. PVR Inox reports a strong quarter. The narrative around Hindi cinema's recovery continues on its current trajectory. The second scenario, roughly 35%, involves word of mouth in the opening 72 hours, converting casual interest into compelled attendance. Domestic crosses Rs 100-300 crore. Overseas surprises at Rs 250 crore or more. Total worldwide touches Rs 500 crore. This is where the consequences become measurable across the industry. OTT platform acquisition budgets for the next 18 months are recalibrated upward by an estimated Rs 2,000-3,000 crore collectively. Competing productions with similar budgets currently in development receive green lights they would not otherwise receive. The third scenario, roughly 10%, is the historic ceiling breaker, a total worldwide gross exceeding Rs 2,000 crore. A number of Hindi films have reached. This would require sustained 8-week theatrical legs of a kind India has not seen since Bahubali 2. This is the least probable scenario in the near term, but if it were to occur, it would structurally redraw the production finance model for Hindi cinema in a way that Rs 1,500 crore alone would not. The analysis commits to scenario 1 as the baseline, but with a specific caveat. If the advanced booking trajectory in non-metro Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities holds through release week, Scenario 2 becomes the more probable outcome. That data point, regional city booking velocity, is the single variable worth tracking in the first 36 hours after release. The third actor in this story is Hollywood, specifically the Disney and Sony theatrical divisions, whose India release calendar has been restructured around Dhurandhar 2's release window. Hollywood studios have a structural economic interest in Indian theatrical dominance during premium release windows. India's multiplex tier now contributes approximately Rs 800-1,000 crore annually to global Hollywood grosses. But Hollywood simultaneously has a profound strategic interest in not ceding the premium format screen allocation, IMAX, 4DX, Dolby, to any single domestic film for longer than 4 weeks. The paradox: Hollywood needs Indian screens to be healthy and well attended. It does not need any single Indian film to prove that Indian cinema can command those screens without Hollywood's product. Dhurandhar 2's screen count, particularly its allocation of premium format screens, is not simply a logistical decision. It is a data point that Hollywood's Asia-Pacific theatrical divisions are watching with structural interest. If Dhurandhar 2 demonstrates that Indian cinema can sustain premium format occupancy across 6 weeks, the negotiating dynamics for every subsequent Indian Hollywood screen allocation conversation changes permanently. What Dhurandhar 2 reveals at its most fundamental level is something that theatrical economists understand clearly, but that the mainstream film media consistently underestimates. India's box office ceiling is not a creative constraint. It is a structural one, and the structures are changing faster than the narratives about them. The production finance model changed, the screen consolidation changed, the diaspora size changed, the OTT rights valuation model changed. Dhurandhar 2 is the first film to exist fully inside all 4 of those changed structures simultaneously. When structural constraints are not in the analysis, what looks like an extraordinary film event is actually an ordinary outcome of changed conditions. And when conditions change but the mental model does not, the projections fail, in both directions. Subscribe to the channel and share this video with anyone who wants to understand what India's box office is actually capable of and why. What we have just walked through is the analysis that does not fit in a film review or a trade report, and that the mainstream entertainment media consistently fails to provide. Leave one question in the comments. Can India's multiplex infrastructure sustain the premium format occupancy rates that Scenario 2 requires? Or is the current screen count the binding constraint that no marketing budget can overcome? Every response gets read and considered.